Welcome to episode 4 of the UFC podcast. My guest today is Julio Arce. Julio, how's it going, man? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Everything's going great. Can't complain. Just in the waiting stages.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I know you're coming off that big win in March, but are you trying to get back in at some point this year?
I'm trying to get a fight as soon as possible. The one thing we're going through right now, my fight in March was the last fight of my contract. So, there's like that whole negotiations and all that. I just want to get back into fighting right away because I know there's a lot of 45ers out there who don't have an opponent. So, trying to get somebody.
Yep. Hey, man, you're a walking highlight. So I'm sure the UFC is looking to re-sign you. I definitely know I want to watch some more Arce fights in the UFC. So make sure you get that deal done, and we can get you back in there.
That's what I'm looking for. Like I've been at the moment I did my last fight. I'm like I want a quick turnaround fight too. I did call out Nathaniel Wood since he was a 35er that moved up, but he's fighting this weekend. So I see that. I know Korean Superboy. He wanted a quick turnaround fight because he hadn't fought in a while after his last win this past weekend. So I'm like, hey man, you need a dance partner? I'm right here.
Yep. And you kind of mentioned it, but is 45 going to be your weight class moving forward?
Absolutely. 45 will be that's that's I'm 34. I don't feel, cutting down to 35 is only gonna just do me more harm than good. I can do it, but nah.
Yeah.
I'll do 45.
How old, or I guess I should ask, how young were you when you first started making 35?
I mean, I used to find the amateurs at 140. And then once I turned pro, like in my pretty much throughout my 20s, I was doing 35. But back then in the regional scene, I didn't have someone like Eric Pena to do my nutrition. And, like when you're coming up, you don't, I think people have to also realize, you got to hire professionals and stuff like that. So in the regionals, you don't make as much as like then when you get into the bigger leagues. That's in everything that we do, right? So, it was a little bit of the wild, wild west in that where, it wasn't as calculated as we do it now. So I was like, let's move up to 45. This is getting tough.
Yep. Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, you see, especially in wrestlers, right? They're making the same weight class since they're 14 years old, and then they're trying to do it at 35, and it's like this can't be good for your health, man. I don't know what's going on.
Props to them. I mean, they're doing it. They're doing it like every weekend and for multiple matches. So that a lot of them are like, I know a couple of wrestlers who go through that, and I'm like, nah, no thank you.
Yep.
I wouldn't want to do that either.
Yep. And I mean, obviously, coming from the wrestling background, like that's a good venture into mixed martial arts. You see that pathway a lot. But you kind of had a different route into MMA. Do you want to just talk about your martial arts background and kind of what got you into the sport?
What got me into this sport is the the idea that I wanted something that was very that would hold me accountable for how good I got. Look, I like team sports. I used to I used to play soccer. I used to do swimming like when I was a little kid. And when I came here, you get a little lazy, and it's not for me coming into the U.S. I didn't know like a word of English like I do now. So you get self conscious. At the same time, I was eating a lot. I got very overweight, and my oldest sister brought me to Tiger Schulman's because other activities were just not my thing. I wanted something that I'm like, this is my thing that I have to do it on my own to get there. Of course, I always have my teammates and everyone pushing me to help me get better, but it's something that I held myself accountable, and I had to get good. Like you can't fake getting good in this because the mat exposes everything. So that's one of the things I love. So if you try to cheat, you get exposed on that mat by somebody who's been busting their ass to get good. And I loved about it because like there were no shortcuts. And here we are. Then started training and I got my first. Well, back then you had to be 18 to be like to get like sanctioned fights. If not, there were exhibitions. But I waited till I was 18 and got my first fight, and now we're here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you remember what your first class was like in Tiger Schulman's? Was it a kickboxing class? Was it, jiu-jitsu? What kind of class was it?
So I started doing both kickboxing and jujitsu, and I was in a kids class, and I met a bunch of people there who just been lifelong friends, and it was a little nerve wracking because I think I was the only lefty in class, so I had to do everything pretty much backwards. And when I went in there, everyone's in their stance with like the right leg and back, like because that's their dominant side. And I'm like what do I do? It's like because I'm all backwards, so it's like I'm throwing like the wrong techniques. But my instructors immediately they were like, "Look, you're a lefty, so every like this is how it works," and they walked me through it every step of the way. In jujitsu, it was it was fun because it's like at first, like me not knowing anything about martial arts. Like I had no background before I got in there. I was like, listen, I was just some kid watching probably Dragon Ball Z on TV. I'm like, yo, it's cool. We got to fight people. And it's completely the opposite. But then I got in there and it's like you just learn and you got to be focused. And it drew me in because I'm like, who knew that you could do this type of this type of like this develop this skill, and then later on in life you go up and like damn, it's like I can do this. I could you can strangle somebody, you can kick someone in the head and do all this, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's an incredible skill to learn how to do. Like, it's just very it's unique. It's not only going to just like help you in your life, learning the discipline, learning everything that comes with martial arts, but also it's like, yeah, you can just beat people up if you really need to.
I know, but the beautiful one of the beautiful things about it is you don't even have to. You just like you don't have to. Like back then when like the UFC started really coming around and people didn't know what it was, and they just thought all these guys are just a bunch of meatheads who just want to fight, and it's like like when you go bro lifting, it's like they just get in their heads, like just want to look for fights. Like no, like we're some of the calmest people ever. Like we know what we can do. We get paid to do it, and we don't have to fight anybody. But we know that if it came down to it, you know, we can handle ourselves and we can protect the people that we care about, which is an amazing feeling, which makes you carry yourself a lot differently.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly that confidence that you're speaking about that
Mhm.
allows you to not be, a bully, doesn't allow you to be a dick outwardly because you're confident in yourself. Most of the time, if you're going to be a mean person, if you're going to be a bully, it's coming from insecurity. So if you beat those insecurities out, every single day in the gym, it's hard to be a bad person in real life.
Exactly. When I train with my teammates all the time, it's like, look, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, but it keeps you just like so centered because you can only just look back and like, damn, like how can I get better? It's like this person's helping me get better, and it just becomes like such a great atmosphere. And sometimes we just, rag on each other, but it keeps like we stay humble with one another.
Yep. Can you speak a little bit to just staying at the gym that you started your first kids class in instead of just moving to a big camp like an ATT or an AKA, just sticking with the guys that kind of helped establish your roots?
It was what Tiger Schulman's did for me was very life changing. It was life changing for me because I when I when I came to the US and I was training, I said before I didn't understand a word of English. I was also a very overweight kid once I got here because I thought, when you're young, you can eat whatever you want and you'll stay skinny forever. It doesn't work like that. um, and I was very self-conscious about myself. I got picked on. I got picked on because of my weight. I got picked on because of me not understanding English. You know how it is. Kids are ruthless, and that's the way it is. But I didn't I didn't make an excuse about it. I was just my sister brought me there, and I was just brought up, the basics, understanding. I fell in love with it. I love what it did for me, and I love what my instructors did for me, and I always wanted to pay it forward. And I started helping out. Started, then, as I got older, I was teaching. I was competing every week, like almost every week. Like, and I was guided correctly, and it wasn't like, all right, here you know you're good, go do this. They were like, okay, look, you're gonna do a couple like jiu-jitsu tournaments. Okay, this is our organizational tournament. Go for it. Go. It's like, just go compete. Like, you want to get good, go compete. Go challenge yourself. Right. You really want to build your skill. It's not just build your skill in the gym and that's it. It's like, now you're at a point where, like, you kind of become the big fish in a little pond. It's like, all right, go challenge yourself against, people from other schools. Do the Naga tournaments. And then once I turned 18, they're like, okay, you want to fight? Let's get you a fight. And it was always the thrill of the challenge, like, of those challenges that my coaches gave me. And then eventually, once you become kind of like the top player in your school. They're like, okay, now you're gonna go to our headquarters. And that's where I met people like, you know, Jimmy Rivera, Shane, Lyman, Louis Gaudino, Nick Pace, like, and we're like Mike Trezano. Like, we all came up, and of course we have a stable of a bunch of other great talents in there. But once I met them, and they cooled me up. But it was great because I looked at it. This is the next level. Like, this is what it is. Like, wow. Like, I never expected. I thought it was like, all right, I'm like at the top. I'm in my school. They're like, okay, well, now you go here, and you you go from being a big fish in a little pond to now being the little fish in a big pond. And now they force you to level up, right? They force you to step out of that comfort zone and go. And at the same time, I built, lifelong friendships. Like, you build bonds with all these people that it's like you become friends forever with these guys, and all through beating each other up. It's just one of the funnest things ever. And we all continuously train. And even now at this level, you see the next generation, and you see how the talent has evolved, and how much, like, just I feel like everyone's absorbing stuff a lot faster, and the level is getting so much better at a younger age, which is amazing. And now, we cross train with other people. We bring people into the gym. We go to their gyms and such, and you see, like, now an even higher level, and you're like, damn, it's like, I didn't see that, but it's like, I thought we got to here. Now there's even a higher level than that. So it's always just constant improvement. That's something that I always thank my coaches for, because they told me, it's like, look, don't ever think you know everything, or that you're like, all right, I'm the best and this is the way it's done. It's like, no, it's like, you gotta have the mentality, like, when you think you're at a high level, there's an even higher level. Like, keep training, keep getting better. And they instilled that on me when I was just, some average Joe that had no idea, who just wanted to lose weight as a kid. And this is where I am now.
Yep. Man, you kind of touched on it. The UFC and MMA as a whole is evolving so fast. And it's one of the coolest things about being such a new sport is I remember being, around 2017, 2018, thinking like, I don't really see where the change is going to come. Like, I feel like, it's kind of the sport has established itself. We've been around long enough. And then the calf kick comes in. And it's like, we've seen Benson Henderson throw it a little bit before that,
Yeah.
but it really changed the game in the last 5 years. And it's such a simple kick. Like, I don't understand how we missed that for so long.
Yeah. It's like, look, at one point, like you see the evolution, like so from the first UFC, like the one style, one person strike, a person was a wrestler. Then it's like, okay, now people are starting to adapt to everything. Then the calf kick comes around, or jujitsu gets introduced to the world. Then Lyoto Machida front kicking people, and people are just trying to front kick each other in the face. You looked at even like other promotions. People throwing like spinning this jump elbows. John Jones with the spinning elbows. So everyone's just trying stuff, and you realize, wow, just when you think you have just like we got the concept of something, it's like somebody comes in and does something. The leg lock, when people are just trying to do leg locks everywhere. So it's constantly evolving, and it's amazing because it keeps you training. It keeps you realizing, man, I feel like I still have so much to learn, and that's what keeps me. That keeps me always like around because like I said before, I think we get to a certain level, and some people they're like, this is it, and to other people like, nah, there's still so much more, and can't help but love it.
Yeah, I mean it's a sport that you can just continuously do and grow until, I mean, look at Helio Gracie. He was doing jujitsu in his 80s. So I mean it's a
Yeah,
definitely a lifelong sport. You might not be able to compete that long, but I know there's jujitsu masters tournaments. Like you can keep doing whatever in whatever aspect you want to do the sport, you can keep doing it forever. So
yeah, you just keep doing it because you love it, because you enjoy it, because you keep getting better, because there's always something new to learn. And even if it's the same basic technique you've been working for years, like there's still now more ways to make it better.
yep. Do you feel any sort of way of just like having to pay it forward to the next generation?
Yeah. Um, I I always look towards that. I always do want to pay it forward because when I started, I was able to get a lot of opportunities through my training and through what I'd done. My coaches, my mentors, they gave me amazing opportunities through the work ethic that I've been putting in, and they're like, look, that's the way to do it. Someone believed in me, and I want whoever's coming up, the next generation, to understand someone believes in them. And then if this is what they want to do, they can take it far. Of course, in anything, you have to work hard at it. It's not just going to be like, here you go, and you automatically become, what the best fighter ever. Like, you got to put in work. But I like giving people the opportunities because I was given those opportunities. So I always want to pay it forward because that's just the right thing to do, especially as martial artists. You want to bring people up, not about putting them down, help them get better in any way that they can, whether they want to compete or not.
Yep. And you're currently a coach at Tiger Schulman's, correct?
Yeah.
How much are you coaching? Are you in there every day, coaching classes, or what's that schedule like?
I teach classes every single day. And, like I think, when people go like, oh, you're in the gym every single, you're going to training and then teaching all day. My work is easy. This is enjoyable to me. I mean, I teach every day from my class go from 4 until almost 10 o'clock at night. And, my students love training. I see their growth, I see the improvement, and I see, like you go from I've been teaching like some of these kids who've been training on me since they were 5, and now like they're now going towards the 20s, but like in adulthood, and it's very motivating because some of them will thank me. It's like, thank you for the guidance. And my response to it is like, you did it all through your hard work, and I'm proud of that. Some adults who've been training with us for decades now, they committed themselves to training and just living the life of a martial artist. Doesn't matter how old they are, they love it because it makes them feel good, and I always want them to feel like that at all times. So it's yeah, there you go. Kind of want to put a little bit, um, and I want to do what's right by people. I want them to train. I want them to love it. I want them to enjoy it. I want them to feel good about it, and because somebody did that for me as a student, so
Mm-hmm.
any way I can pay it forward is the best way, I hope it just helps them and they carry it with them, even whether they train with me or not.
Yeah. And have any of your students ended up taking fights? Have you been a cornerman for them, or are you pretty much just teaching in the gym?
No, we have an amateur. His name is Ryan Sipovicius. He's now, I think he's 6 or 7-0. He's he's got a kickboxing world title. He's an amateur. He wants to go pro and eventually in the future, but he has to do amateur MMA first. He's actually going to fight at the Hulu Theater in October. He's going to defend his title. It's someone who been training since he was 3 years old, and now he's a champion, and he wants to take it further. And I'm like, dude, I'm there for you. Show the work, like you're putting the work, and this is where you're at. So go for it. And there's a bunch of other people who want to fight, and it's just putting the time and kind of making sure that all their details in there, so they go in there, they're more than prepared, and they don't, freak out under the lights.
Yeah. How does, being in his corner and having him win compare to, maybe yourself winning or one of your teammates winning? How does that feel being a coach?
You know what? I always understand you understand how your coaches feel in the corner. You're like, your palms are sweating. You're like, keep your hands up. It's like, you're like screaming in the corner. And to the excitement of seeing the next generation come up. And, and that's what I've been seeing a lot lately. We have the next generation of amateurs, of, young pros coming up, and you're like, damn, this is amazing. You see them win, you see them thrive, and you see them develop into martial arts, and you look back, it's like, man, I was in that journey already, and it's great to see you guys taking in that martial arts journey, working hard, and making things happen on your own. I'm like glad to see people still embody that, and they go for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. A little bit of a segue here. November 1st, we have some new MMA rules going into effect. What are your thoughts on those two new rules?
You know what? I think go for it, man. The 12-6 elbow. I mean, look, if you're getting kicked bare shin in the face, like just whatever. You're still gonna get, like, I've gotten elbowed in the freaking face. What I'm like, dude, just part of combat sport. For the grounded rule, now people can't play that game. That's the great thing. It's like, because you get that a lot, and it becomes a controversy, and it's like, dude, you're playing that game. It's gonna happen. You can't avoid it. Now it's like, all right, you're either on the ground, knee down, elbows down, or if not, it. The only thing we're waiting for is they're gonna probably bring back soccer kicks. Imagine if they do that. Nah, going back to the old, like, pride days.
Yeah, it's so I'm all for the rule change. I think,
Yeah.
I when you have a sport like MMA, I think that the more limitations that you have is kind of weird. I think you should essentially be able to use any legitimate technique to finish your opponent. Like you said, you can knee an opponent in the head when they're standing up. Is their hand on the ground really that much of a difference? The only
Mhm.
thing that I would say is a little bit controversial is just the fact that you're contained in a cage. That you can smash somebody up against a cage and then start kneeing them in the face is a little weird because they can't really move at that point. But
Yeah,
hey, it's
look,
as long as it leads to knockouts, I guess that's entertainment and money for the company. So
yeah, look, they already like made the new gloves, which is people have been dropping left and right. Because those new gloves, is like, look, compared to the old gloves, I'm like, those gloves look a little thinner. It's like, no wonder people are dropping left and right harder.
when
But
those when those new gloves came out, did the UFC send you a pair of gloves immediately? Were you able to start training with those, or what was that like?
I'm waiting for a pair of gloves because I want to really start like training with those more. Like, I still have like the ones they gave us, and I use those for training a lot. but I want to. I'm getting a pair delivered to me, and I want to really test them out because like I said, I see they're a lot thinner, and you got to get used to that now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a picture. I think it was Garrett Armfield or some fighter put up just a picture of him comparing side by side with the gloves on his hands, and it's drastic. I can't even imagine what like the heavyweight gloves look like, because obviously they're were bigger than the smaller gloves, anyways. But yeah, wild. Um,
Well, it's funny because like everyone thought it was like, all right, no more eye poke, and next like now here's a thinner glove. We're gonna finish fights faster. Like, okay.
yeah, so back to the old Pride gloves. Those had a little bit of curvature in the fingers. Um, would you like to see the UFC implement a glove more like that to eliminate eye pokes, or does it really matter to you?
I think it's gonna happen regardless, because even if the curvature, some people are gonna be like this, like, all right, stop it. You're gonna get like it's gonna happen. It's some things that are just like are out of our control. It's like when you get kicked in the groin by accident, and you're like, all right, like we're gonna have like where like the was it like the boxers wear like the giant groin cup? It's like no, it's like it happens. And listen, if 12 to 6 elbows are allowed, they're allowed now. It's like no point in changing the gloves. Just keep everything the same way.
Yep. When you are in the cage and you get eye poked or you get hit in the groin, are you aware of the 5 minutes that you have, or is the pressure of the crowd really forcing you to get back in there? Just as a fan, you see a lot of fighters, they don't take their full time. They might take a minute and then they want to just get back in there. What's your thought process when you do have a stoppage in the round?
It's I think in every situation it depends. So I look back at my last fight, like I got kneed in the groin twice, but I knew that if I took a break, he's getting a break, and knowing that his gas tank is not as great. I was like, all right, we gotta shake this off. Like, I'm gonna stay on this guy because I know as I'm trying to be like, let me take a second. It's like, like, no, you get no break. I'm gonna stay on you. Like, I'm gonna use that to fuel me. So it all depends. Some people, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, like people they get hit in the groin and they go into the replay. It's like, hey, you completely missed. Like that was a clean shot, but they take advantage because they got hit with a good shot, and they're like, yo, I need this break right now. It's like, yeah, give me another second. So each situation is different. For me, I'm like, no, I'm gonna keep going. It's like, all right, you hit me, all right, shake it off. Like the ref would be like, yo, you're right. Like, yeah, I'm good. Let's go, keep going. Especially knowing that if that person is getting a rest too. If it's an eye poke, where this actually happened to me in one of my regional fights in rear combat, like the guy's like finger like went like I felt in the back of my eye, and like that's where like my eyes like bleeding, and I'm like and the ref said you're good. I was like, dude, it's like, did you see that? Like I can't see, and the fight kept going. So each situation varies. For me, I'm like, let's just keep going. Look, if I'm winning this fight, I'm not giving you a break, right? And even if I'm not winning the fight, I'm like, no, we got to find a way to win. Every minute counts right now. It varies.
Man, who is that ref trying to tell you that you're good and you can see? I don't think that's
I
his
don't
call to
know,
make.
but yeah, it was it, like we're literally standing, the guy went boom, and I'm just like, oh my god, like dude, he poked me in the eye, like my eye starts bleeding, and he's like, "You're good." What?
That's wild. And I know like the refs will tell you in the back, like your job is to keep fighting. Like I will step in and stop the fight. Like that's my job. You focus on what you can control, which is protecting yourself at all times.
Yeah,
But then you inevitably see anytime anybody gets hit in the groin or eye poked, they immediately look to the ref to try to get a stoppage in the action, which I think is totally fair. Like you need to let the ref know
yeah,
if he's on the other side of you, he might have not been able to see the strike. Um,
yeah.
do you have an opinion on that? Would you want to get the ref's attention, or do you just kind of bite down and hope that the ref stops it?
I think getting the ref's attention is important, but you have to be able to multitask it because look, if you have somebody that's like, yo, I'm just here to freaking hurt you, and I don't care if you get poked, like, I'm here to finish you. You gotta find a way to like make that distance where you get the ref's attention. It's like, hey man, I poke, and keep your eye on that person. Because if you just turn around and you look at the ref, hey, I poke, and that dude just comes in like boom, it's like you screwed yourself over on that. So it's how to react to it and how to deal with that situation because you're right. Sometimes the ref is behind you and they don't see it. And then next thing you know, you're turning around, it's like, I poke. Like, I gotta make sure I get that ref. Either I go around that ref or he's in front of me, like, dude, he poked me in the eye. I can't see. And you have to find a way to figure it out because sometimes people will go, oh, he poked me in the eye, and the ref see, I didn't see it. And the guy just comes in and hits you. That's kind of your fault. Protect yourself at all times. It sucks, but that's what they tell you. It's like, don't stop fighting until I intervene. So you have to find a way to make sure that ref, it's in between you guys where you're like, hey, ref, yo, he poked me it's like, he poked me in the eye. It's like, and the ref could be like, all right, time. But if not, you got
It's
to find a way to
violence.
make that. Yeah, it's violence. That's it.
Yep. And then just, looking back at your record, it seems like the UFC does not want to put you on an Apex card. They keep putting you in front of fans, which I'm sure you love. Where is somewhere in the world that you would like to go with the UFC and be on a card?
I did try to push. I was trying to push for France, but that's like was the next the one in Paris.
Oh,
It's pretty
is
much
it?
like end of July.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know I would listen if they ever go. I would definitely do Japan. That would be freaking cool. That would be like like over there. It's like I heard one. It's amazing over there, and fighting over there would be quite the experience. But other than that, like if by the Sphere, um, yeah, but mostly Japan. That would be awesome. Paris or Japan would be pretty cool.
Yeah, Japan is a great answer because their fans are so much different than, American fans or Brazilian fans, even the UK fans that we'll see this weekend.
Yeah,
The Japanese, they'll sit in their seats and every takedown that happens, every reversal, they're going to clap, they're going to cheer for every little thing that they do. And they're the most respectful fans too. It'd be an awesome experience.
it's so funny that you say that because you could if you were to sit and do like comparison of like all the fans like how rowdy everybody gets. I think it was like the old Pride days is like you wouldn't really hear people like screaming like crazy. They'll just be like, yeah, and they just clap for you. So it's kind of it sounded like if you were fighting in the apex where you hear everything and all you're just like clapping, which is pretty funny. But that would be an amazing experience, just Japan itself.
Yep. Um, where's your favorite place that the UFC is, allowed you to travel to?
For me, it's been Vegas.
Yeah.
I like the Vegas scene. It's over there. It's chill. It's always different because they're 3 hours
Yeah,
behind. Yeah, 3 hours behind. Yeah. Um, I know like when it was the whole COVID thing. At one point, me and my teammates were all scheduled. They were doing Fight Island. They were scheduled to fight on. I'm like, nah, a 21-hour time difference to fly there, especially like the week of. Like, because if not, we like, and the thing is, we were all scheduled to fight. It's like one weekend, then somebody the next weekend, then somebody the weekend after that. So imagine it's like we have to fly out there ahead of time to sit there in whatever hotel they're keeping us, where you can't leave, adjusting to the time difference, being locked in a room. And even today, like it doesn't even matter now, but I wouldn't want to go unless it's Japan. Then it's like somewhere else, like for that kind of time difference where you have to adjust. Nah,
I
like
mean, it's definitely the most convenient to just keep it stateside. It's going to be,
exactly.
a couple hour flight, regardless of where it is. Easy to get your team there.
Florida and Vegas, because they also don't charge those state taxes. So
Yep.
that's always a plus too.
Yeah, it's a bummer being in New York, right? Like you want to fight at home, but it's a tough state to
Yeah,
be fighting in.
it's a tough one. Like, I mean, look, I fought in New Jersey. Yeah, it's close to home. Like, that's the like when you really look at it, it's like, yeah, it's convenient. But then you look at it, like, damn, I'm getting charged New York and New Jersey taxes. Like, oh, dude, that sucks.
Yeah. When you go out to Vegas, do you utilize the PI at all?
Yes, absolutely. Go. It's amazing. For from training to their PT to everything that they offer. Take full advantage of it. It's amazing.
Would you ever be enticed to split some time in Vegas like so many fighters do?
I would if fighting was the only thing I was doing. But like I have my school and from here, like I have where we go train in New Jersey by our headquarters, we have a training facility where, I do my strength and conditioning, but I also have a PT place. So and they're the people and they're, this is Edge Pro PT in Paramus, New Jersey. They're the ones that helped me with my rehab for my knee, for my elbows when I got surgery. And, they know how to deal with combat athletes because they've been working with us for years now. So it's always good to know that like the PI would be, it's amazing facility, state of the art. But if I have my school and I want my school to keep doing well and everything, I have to be close by. But I have a place like Edge Pro PT, and they they know what to do, and they constantly also look at what combat athletes have to deal with. Like the UFC PI, sometimes they send us like a volume of a book of like, okay, the way combat athletes function, which is great because most places still to this day, like they're familiar with it, but they don't know how to help somebody who's doing a combat sport as much as they can help somebody who's been doing football, soccer, and such. So it's always hard to find someone like that because they'll be like, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then you tell them, well, this is what I do. And they're like, well, tell me a little more about that because I'm still new to this. So it's finding the right place that's going to help you get back to training the way you want as a combat athlete.
Did you have any doubts, when you had a year and a half off recovering from that ACL injury that you had, that you were ever going to make it back to where you were before?
Oh, man. I think and I know a lot of fighters can attest to this, the thought of surgery and the thought of being on the shelf, it mentally messes with you because you think that this is like either this is it, it's like all right, that's it, I'm done, or like damn, I'm on the shelf now, I can't train, I can't fight, and you feel like you're just kind of there, like you're like a toy sitting on a shelf just collecting dust, not able to improve. And it creeps up in your head from time to time, especially like before surgery. Then after surgery, once you realize, okay, and you have the right people behind you, then it was a lot easier because the moment I got my surgery, immediately they're like, all right, you're gonna start walking. Next day, Dr. Brian from Edge Pro, he was like, all right, this we're gonna start doing. And I at first you're doubting yourself, like, man, I'm learning how to use my leg again. And you're like, but knowing that he knows what we do made it a lot easier. And then those 6 weeks of rehab, And I'm still doing, I'm still doing everything. I'm still going to my PT sessions, hitting my lifts, hitting everything that I have to do because I think it takes at least a year to complete that. But he kept me busy where it was the the return to the mat and to training the way I am now was flawless. And as in when I got my elbow surgery a while back, it was right before COVID. So you're like locked in like a freaking place. You can't leave. You can't do anything. It's like, shit, man, this might be it. Like, I have to kind of teach myself how to use my arms. But luckily, the team at Edge Pro, they did it through videos. Like, yeah, we're going to keep doing this and keep finding your way. So it mentally challenges people, but you don't realize also how much you can improve because it makes you take a step out of the box and just like build a lot of this, which is what everyone needs to build, especially when it comes to fighting.
Did you have any, resistance or I guess maybe fear throwing that leg, throwing hard kicks, again, 100%?
Dude, absolutely. And especially because sometimes creeps in your mind, it's like, oh man, I don't want to re-injure this leg. Or, as you're starting to rebuild your leg and get used to using it, your leg will fatigue a little bit more. Or you start to feel like more soreness, like, oh man, I don't know, like, did I hurt it again? And you start like a little doubt, but then you realize, no, like I'm putting work to build it. So it's gonna feel like that. It becomes a normal thing. And you have to adjust to that. It's you're gonna have fear, you're gonna have doubt, especially like the moment they said, okay, now you're gonna fight again. Going into that fight, it was the the return of fighting. Will my knee hold up? Uh, how will the fight play out? This, that. It's like, will my leg be able to handle that kind of pressure? Because then before that, you saw some fighters who they took a step in the cage and like their knee went out. And it's freak accident. It happens. But then you go into like, shit, is my leg gonna hold up? And it does creep up, but look, you got to work through it, especially if you want to do what you love to do.
Absolutely. I'm gonna just move on here and ask you a few fan questions, and then we'll
Go
wrap
for it.
this up.
Got it.
Awesome. First question's coming from Chris527. Are you able to sleep the night before the fight?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's like in and out, knowing that this big moment's gonna happen. You're sleeping, but then you'll wake up in between the nights because it's like the excitement, the nervousness. So it's a 50-50.
Do you think that affects you at all? Or honestly, does it matter?
That doesn't matter. Once you're like, all right, I'm ready to fight where we're going.
That's awesome. Next question's from Bones Jones 99. What's the best kind of chicken?
Hmm, that's a good question. Still, buttermilk fried chicken.
Yeah,
Exactly, right?
I was gonna come back with something else, but I don't think I will. I think we'll stick with that answer. um, Question from Baby Ewok. What's the best way to start training MMA?
I think it's finding a gym that's going to really take care of you and your upbringing, and that's going to build a great foundation, right? Because it's not going to be a gym. So look, if you're someone who has experience and wants to get into fighting, and someone goes, okay, we're gonna throw you in like train with me for like a month or so, get your striking good, somewhat good, and then go. You got to be careful with that because you don't want your career ending like that, especially if someone knocks you out. Right? You're hoping that you do well, but you want to go in there well prepared. So you have to go into a gym that's going to bring you up correctly and not rush you through the process.
Would you suggest them to start training in a particular discipline or just throw them to the wolves?
It, you know what? I would start every fight start standing, effective stand up and basic jujitsu. And I think it's like you have to do a bit of everything, like especially like wrestling. Look, most of the people know how to wrestle. You get taken down, you get held down. What can you do? But striking, wrestling, and then you start building the jujitsu in there. So you have a good foundation.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, the United States, although our wrestling system is kind of failing, honestly,
Mm.
we still have good youth wrestling in the US. So a lot of kids are still starting at 4 years old, wrestling, little guy wrestling, all through, elementary school, middle school, high school, into college. So by the time they even think about taking an amateur fight or their first professional fight, they have 20 plus years of wrestling experience. So
And they learn to grapple like a wrestler, like
yes.
being on top, because that's where you want to be, where you can start causing damage, right? Like it's not wrong to end up on your back if you're that comfortable, you're that good, but you get somebody with a good wrestling base that can neutralize that. Now you're in danger. So I think, striking, solid striking, solid wrestling. And then the jujitsu, you start to build it. So if you find yourself on your back, you can build your way up easier.
Yep. Hey, if you're a wrestler, watch your arms, watch your guillotines and triangles. But I honestly think a good wrestler's almost, a blue belt their first day of jiu-jitsu.
Exactly. They have a really good understanding.
Yep. The last question's coming from Nugget, and he wants to ask you who you think I have the best chance against in the octagon.
Hmm. So what you said you had a wrestling background, right?
A little, yeah. I've done some
Okay.
jiu-jitsu as well.
How long have you done it for?
So I started wrestling when I was 4 and did that for, 5 years.
All
It
right.
was longer than that. And then I've only done jiu-jitsu for like 18 months.
18 months. And what about striking?
Striking, I don't like getting punched in the face.
So if you're gonna go, and what weight are you?
I'm a 165 right now. So I could probably make 35, but I'd be hurting.
All right. So let's say 35. You go to 35. You have solid wrestling, and then you have 18 months of jujitsu. Hmm. I would definitely put you with somebody who is more jujitsu oriented because you can grapple like a wrestler and you can contain them. Teach you how to throw a little ground and pound. You look a couple of elbows, ground and pound, you'd be good. So let's see. I remember who was that? I think you do well against even like you could do like a good against like a Herbert Burns type of guy, even though he's a 45er,
I
right?
appreciate that.
Yeah, because you know what? Like with a good wrestling base, you neutralize everything. Or you
All
can
right.
look and even look, it's his standing his stand up, respect to him is not up to par. So I think you hold your own pretty well.
Okay. If I had to say it myself, I would just be looking at the 115-pound women and trying to pick one out of there if I actually had to go in there, and
And
I'd
I
still
think
probably
that
get beat.
I think yeah, those the women are savages in there. Like you watch the one fight, it's crazy.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to get in there. That's why I'm trying to speak to you through a microphone. I don't think fighting's the best for me. I was When I got into college, I joined a gym and started doing jujitsu. I'm from a small town in Montana, so we didn't have anything like that here.
Yeah.
So started doing jujitsu and then joined the kickboxing class. And I remember I lifted my shin up and I checked a kick, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if this is for me. I think I might want to just, transition and be involved in MMA in a different aspect of the sport."
Yeah. I say you
Awesome,
gotta
Julio.
give it a chance. Once you do it, it's like, all right, you'll be like, all right, it's not bad, it's not bad. But it's
See that?
also who you're training with. If you're like, so if you go in there, and this is a thing that happens, a lot of people go in there and it's like ego takes over, and you gotta be like, hey man, it's like no ego here. It's like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just starting. Work with me. Like if I hit you hard, it's probably because I'm nervous as shit right now. And some people be like, all right, I get that. Then you got some people it's like, you hit me hard without realizing your first time like, oh, I'm gonna freaking clock you. So it's
Yep.
always who you go with.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a great point. And it was, in all fairness, probably not the best gym. There was only a few guys in there. They were all under 22 years old. The head coach was trying to make a comeback into martial arts. So he was just rolling most of the time. Like we were just sparring. Like there wasn't much drilling. Nothing was really happening. You'd go in, you'd slap hands and just kind of fight for
It's
an
like,
hour.
all right, here we go. It's like survival now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was 19 just trying to survive, walking out bruises, blood coming out of my
Yeah,
mouth, going back to the dorms. And I was like, oh, man, I'm
yeah,
just going to college. Like,
yeah. Like it ruins your experience. Like everyone's different. I mean, look, like every time, like when I'm teaching, I'm like, hey guys, you got to understand you have different levels here. Like know who you're going with, communicate to your partner. Like everyone thinks like, all right, we got to have it. It's a gym war. It's like, all right, we're going to fight you. It's like, all right, we're going like straight up death match. Like, no, it's like, you're no good to your partner if you're hurt, and you're no good if you're not. Like, you're no good to anybody if you're just trying to knock them out. Nobody's going to learn anything. You got to know how to work.
yep. Well, I mean, if I ever make it over to New York, I'll definitely come into Tiger Schulman's and maybe we can get some work over there.
Dude, always welcome, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time. It was super fun talking to you. We're definitely looking forward to when you get in the octagon again next.
Definitely let you everyone know. All right. Take care, bro. Great
Absolutely.
talking. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Have a good one.